one of the things that is a common criticism from reformers, and I believe you've even made this in the past, is that the lawyers who represent the NRA right now are from a firm called Brewer Attorneys and Counselors, and that's run by a man named Bill Brewer, who has been very cozy with Wayne LaPierre, I guess would be one way of putting it. That he's had quite a lot of his money sent his way by the NRA while Wayne LaPierre was in charge of it. Right. And so there's question by critics of Wayne LaPierre, at least, that also tend to be critics of Bill Brewer. How do you view that, and do you think it's changing?
It seems to be changing to me. I mean, the Brewer law firm, they've billed the NRA at least $100 million in legal fees. And so I'm highly critical of that law firm, as you know, and I even tried to have the Brewer law firm brought in as an agenda item at one of the board meetings when I was on the board, and I couldn't get that done. But it seemed to me the Brewer law firm was more interested in just billable hours throughout this whole process, and supporting Wayne and trying to keep him, intact as the CEO of the NRA. But now it does seem some separation. There was a comment in the news today that Bill Brewer made regarding the recent released audio tape of some of the talks that occurred. And Brewer kind of threw Wayne under the bus there a little bit in his comments. So it seems to me that there is some separation since Wayne has resigned last Friday, I guess, that there's a little bit of separation there. And Wayne's the fall guy is what it kind of looks like.
That's interesting because, just from my watching it from the outside, I haven't seen a lot of difference between how they treated Wayne during the bankruptcy and how they're treating him now in court. There, certainly that there's that comment that you alluded to, which attacked the people who were on that tape. Although Wayne wasn't actually on that tape. They talked about him, but it was Woody Phillips and Tyler Schlapp and some of these other, and then executives at Ackerman McQueen basically explaining on tape how the whole scheme worked, which was they would give Ackerman McQueen, which was just the former media firm that the NRA worked with for a long time, is sort of at the center of this whole scheme. But that they would give company cards from Ackerman McQueen to NRA executives and have them spend on the luxury items, the things that they did not want to become public necessarily. And then Ackerman would just bill that back without detailing what it was for. And they laid this all out in audio form. Mike Spees was the one who reported that over at the Trace. We had him on the show a little while back for actually a totally different topic than the NRA, but it's pretty remarkable audio if you listen to it, because it just kind of lays out everything. But as far as Wayne and the NRA goes in court, you did have them saying this. It seems like their defense, and I want to get your perspective on this, because maybe you disagree with how I'm viewing this. Their defense in the bankruptcy, and it feels like they're repeating the same thing now, at least in the early days of this trial, was that yes, Wayne LaPierre and indeed the NRA leadership over this period of time that's in dispute made mistakes. And some people made more mistakes than others. Like they'll blame Woody Phillips, who got fired, and they'll blame Josh Powell and Chris Cox and some of these other people who lost the internal fight basically at the NRA. And they will blame Wayne a little bit, but then they'll say that, in fact, I believe they claim that some of these other allegations that were brought by the Attorney General against Wayne were completely false. I think they said at one point during the arguments on Tuesday, I believe. And so, they're willing to admit to a certain level of misconduct that occurred, but their argument is that misconduct was dealt with and corrected. And so, yes, Wayne made mistakes by taking excess benefits, is what they call it. Right. But he paid back the excess benefits that he admitted taking to. Now, they only admit that he took a tiny fraction of what he's accused of taking. Right. And it just feels like to me so far that I've seen that same argument play out again from the bankruptcy trial where it didn't work. Although that was kind of, the bankruptcy trial didn't work because they weren't bankrupt, is sort of at the end of the day.
Right.
But
Right.
It seems like the same basic legal argument is playing out now. Am I getting that wrong? I mean, you were in the court, obviously, for your testimony. You weren't able to watch the rest of the proceedings, but you've obviously been following it all.
Well, yeah. So that you captured that pretty well. So they're basically saying is, there were some problems, but we fixed all that. Mm-hmm. Well, that's not true. I mean, that's not true at all. I mean, the excess benefits, they're still finding those. I mean, even this year, 2023, on their upcoming tax return, they're going to report $300,000 of excess benefits to Wayne for years from like 2014 through 2019. They're still uncovering this. The total excess benefits that Wayne has supposedly paid back is $990,000. Well, the claim is millions of dollars. So there's a huge gap between what supposedly he paid back and what the embezzlement was, or the misuse of funds, however you want to describe that, the theft was. But the reality is, even paying back the funds, the fact that they took them to begin with, it's still theft. I mean, they misused the money, they stole the money for their personal benefit, and paying it back doesn't make that right. You don't get to clean the slate. Once you've robbed the bank, you're still a bank robber, no matter what happens after that. So, but yeah, that's the image they're trying to present is, yeah, we had some problems, we fixed it, and everything's okay now. But everything's still not okay, for sure.
Yeah, so it seems like you get the general feeling of that's their legal argument, but you do feel like they've perhaps are now more willing to go a little bit harder against Wayne than they were during the bankruptcy, for instance.
It seems to me that there is. I mean, okay. And mostly what I say that I didn't see that in the courtroom as much. I saw it in what the lawyers said in the press and what their comments were, and it just seemed. I mean, I haven't really seen a lot of separation, but now there seems like there's more. The NRA seems to be trying to stand on the ground as, Wayne's gone, he resigned, he's out, and we don't have that problem anymore. And so, I wish they'd have done that earlier. Like 4 or 5 years ago or 10 years ago, but they didn't. So here we are. But we'll see how the trial progresses.